actually bugs, they were just change requests. They were just, you said, anything I don't like, report it as a bug. Okay, here you go. 800 things I don't like. So UAT stretched out to 12 weeks, so there we've got a 100% schedule overrun on UAT. 100%. That's not good. And project failed. So change management, major cause of that failure. So we know how to do this. Again, this is another discipline issue. So system testing on another project that we worked on for a client, cross-functional team doing triage of bugs, evaluation of proposed changes, cross-functional team looking at the proposed changes, assessing risks, costs, opportunities, and benefits, having a discussion, mature discussion about, okay, why should we do this? Why shouldn't we do this? Let's throw it in the balance pans and see what makes sense. Let's allow more change earlier during testing because we can deal with the risk, but less at the end because the risks go up. Right? The risks associated with the change are not the same throughout the life cycle, are they? Risks are going to go up as we get closer to release date. Let's recognize that. So on this project, we had mature decisions being made, and the project was a success. Okay, so I've offered 6 things that I would suggest that you look at. Look at those 6 lessons. How well, how poorly do you do those things? Do you have the right people? Do you manage change? Do you have good requirements? Are there common mistakes that you're making? A lot of the stuff that I described, the mistakes were pretty straightforward, weren't they? Well, I wasn't talking about things where you had to have 17 different things go wrong before the thing resulted in project failure. These are pretty straightforward 1-2 factor kinds of things. So look at it. Are you making these mistakes? Are some of the tips for success that I've mentioned? Because you apply some of those. On the first slide, why should we care? I hope that you could all relate to that. This does matter. Do we know how to deal with this? Do we know how to do better? Yes, we do. Those 6 things that I talked about, those are not secrets. These are not things that nobody's ever heard of before, right? These are things that we know. We just need to do it. So figure out where you are, assess, and then be disciplined. Make the changes that you need to make. You can build better software. We can all build better software. But we should start to hold ourselves as an industry to the expectation that we must build better software because it's becoming more and more critical every day. Just as a society, as a global economy, we can't afford to go through the next 40 years with the kind of lousy software that we put up with for the first 50 years or so of computerization. We can't afford it. We need that to change now because everything's connected to everything else, and when software fails now, it's not an isolated thing. Okay. All right. Do we have time for some questions?
Yeah, please. Yeah, it's time for a few questions. We may not see Rex until next year this time, so please ask some questions. Hardest ones. Yeah.
Please.
My name is Barış Güdülü. You several times talked about skills, and you said we have the skills, we know what to do, what we want to do.
Well, we don't necessarily have the skills.
Yeah, that's my question. Yeah. Which skills should a tester have? You talked about reducing risks in early phases, for example, by simulation.
Yeah.
Or also other techniques like formal verification, some analyzing for deadlocks or other properties. Can we need testers? Which skills do we need as testers?
Yeah, the specific set of skills that you're going to need will tend to vary from one project to the next, depending on the technology and the application domain and the kind of testing that you're doing, right? So the way you determine that is it's referred to as a job analysis or a task analysis, where you go through and you look at what are the different tasks that you as a tester, your test team will have to carry out during this project. And then you ask yourself, what skills would a tester need to have in order to do that? So if, for example, in your project, your performance is a big risk, so you want to do a lot of performance simulation early in the project, then you need to have somebody in the project who understands how to do performance simulation, right? So that's a critical skill on your project. So I think you need to do that analysis to determine what the skills are. Now, some of this stuff I think is clear. As Ray mentioned, I've invested a lot of my own personal time and energy into the ISTQB program as a volunteer, because I do believe that there are core fundamental ideas that are reflected in the foundation and the advanced syllabus that every tester should know. So I think that stuff is easy. You don't need to do a complex task analysis to know that every tester on your team at least ought to be able to understand things like boundary value analysis, and how to write a bug report, and how testing fits into the software development lifecycle process. But I think, if you're a test manager or a quality assurance manager, you do need to go through this process of assessing the skills of your team and what skills they really need to have, and having the discipline to manage the skills growth of your team. But yeah, I want to be clear. When I said we know how to do this stuff, what I meant was that all of the things that I talked about are pretty well understood of why they're important. Now, knowing that we need to do things and having the skills to be able to do them are two different things. So, that's why, we have to build those skills within our teams. But none of the stuff that I talked about is a mystery. It's just discipline and doing it.
Any other question?
Yeah. Hey. My name is Lusa. In your presentation, you mentioned about employees walking out of the company, with their experience. And what do you think about changing project members during a project? What's your experience about? What do you think about it? Is it something good, or so we avoid that in projects, changing project members? Thank you.
Thanks. Good question. Obviously, there are some situations where you've got somebody on the project who needs to not be on the project for one reason or another. This isn't always a skills issue, though it can be. Sometimes it's an attitude issue. Somebody's just they're a problem. They're a source of contention and difficulty within the project. They need to be removed from the project. But anytime you do that, you remove somebody, then you bring someone new in, and this goes all the way back to Fred Brooks and the Mythical Man Month. That person who's been brought in now doesn't know the project. They don't know what they're doing. They can't contribute on the first day, right? So there's a ramp-up period. And this Tom DeMarco concept that I talked about, he said, a simple way of doing this is assume that on the first day that somebody starts on a project, they are 0% effective. In other words, they can't contribute anything, right? And then there's a ramp-up period, and at the end of that ramp-up period, they're 100% effective. So you can assume if it's a straight line ramp-up, on average, that person is 50% effective. So let's say that the ramp-up period is 3 months. It takes 3 months for a new person brought onto a project to become 100% effective. Okay? So during that 3-month period, that person's going to work 3 months, right? So now we have 3 person months of effort that person is putting in. But in terms of effective effort, we only actually get 1.5 person months of work out of that person, because on average they were 50% effective. And again, this isn't my concept. This is a Tom DeMarco thing. I remember reading it in this book and thinking, that's just brilliant. This is a brilliant way of thinking about it.